I am hungover as shit. But I do want to chat about episode 3 of PLUR1BUS, because this episode does worry me quite a bit, both because I'm a little bit scared of which direction they're gonna take Carol as a character, but also because I feel like it's now that we're starting to build up the stakes for the show. So we open on a flashback scene where Carol and Helen went to this ice hotel in Norway 7 years ago, and this scene kind of further enunciates Carol's pessimism. She just is a cardboard cutout of a glass half empty type of person, always see the negative in stuff, and when they are in this beautiful luxury hotel, all she can talk about is the cold, the ice bed, and she's not satisfied being on the bestseller list and, you know, always looking at the negative stuff, right? But this scene also shows that Helen was kind of the person that kept Carol good. You get the sense of the dynamic in the relationship and that Helen was actually the person who brought out all the best parts out of Carol, which just makes her death even sadder to think about. Now, something about Helen's death that I realized first afterwards that I want to bring up now that I didn't have the chance to bring up in my previous video. We know that before Helen passed, she did become part of the hive mind, which is how they have all of our memories and previous experiences and everything. But the thing is, knowing that, and then rewatching the scene where she passes, in that moment, Carol thinks that she is sharing the last moment together with the love of her life. But if it is that Helen was already turned at that point, Carol is then actually sharing a moment with this other artificial entity that's going on right now. Their last moment together might not actually be their last moment together, which is just so sad to think about. Now, after having decided to bring Sosha back to the US, they have a discussion where Carol is thinking that she would like to contact one of the other survivors despite them not speaking English. I mean, she did give an attempt of trying to team up with the English speakers in the previous episode, but that clearly didn't have any success. Now, one of the ones left, who lives in Paraguay, I think it is, given how standoffish he is to everyone else and that he's barely contacted them whatsoever, Carol then thinks that he might feel similarly to the whole situation that she does. However, after a few failed phone interaction, he then slurs Carol off, culminating in her calling him back just to do the same back to him, further emphasizing her pettiness. Show, you gotta be careful right now. Bear in mind that the people who watch this show are mostly people who have already seen Breaking Bad, and a large part of the Breaking Bad fans also hated Skyler during that show. I'm a little bit worried that you're leaning too far into Carol's flaws to the point where she starts to become annoying and unlikable. Now, as of right now, she hasn't crossed any lines for me. I still find her extremely likable and I'm very much invested in her character. But I know there's a lot of people where she has started to become really annoying, and this can easily go in the same direction that the effect that Skyler had on her fans, where there was a lot of people who were very annoyed with her, and the issue is right now that Carol isn't a side character. Carol is actually our protagonist, so it's kind of important that we're invested in her as a character. But as I mentioned, it hasn't been an issue for me right now, but I know it has been for some people, and I'm just worried about how they're gonna do that. But I think so far, so good. But that interaction is then directly followed up with her having like a panic moment in the bathroom of the plane. Now, I do like that we see that she is aware of how she can't lose her temper in front of them, since it leads to them like short wiring and having a seizure and being incapacitated. And the fact that she keeps that in mind is quite a neat detail to her character. Now, when she comes home, she is told that there is a package waiting for her that is revealed to be a package from Helen. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, Carol has been characterized to be quite a private person. She doesn't enjoy revealing parts of her private life to the rest of the world. So now, when everyone on Earth has Helen's memories, experiences, and knowledge, Carol feels almost violated by it. It feels very intrusive to her. And that's when she orders them to forget everything about Helen and never mention her again. Now, there's a point to make about that, but I'll get to that a little bit later. Carol then gets food delivered to her without asking for anything. This makes her almost want to prove a point about her independence, which is when she decides to go to the supermarket to get her own food. Now, that all becomes quite complicated when she notices that the supermarket is entirely emptied out, and they say that they have collected it all and rationed it for efficiency. Now, the following dialogue is very, very important. She says that,
"I am not going to call you every time I need something. I don't want you waiting on me."
That line actually has quite the significance to it. Even though it might be motivated by pessimism and that she doesn't want these people in her life, I actually think this will only serve her well. The less dependent she is of them, the less leverage they could potentially hold over you. She then says, "I only want my sprouts back," and she asks what date she should come by. And that's when they respond, "We'll be there in a moment." This actually has a huge significance because now we know for certain that these people have their own agency. I mean, think about it. In stories like this that we've had before, where we have an inhuman entity who acts like a servant to our main character, they usually don't have control over what their actions are. Ultimately, it is the person that they serve that choose everything for them. But we have been shown that these people can actually act outside of Carol's orders. She told them to forget Helen, which they obviously haven't, she suggested that they bring her sprouts back this Friday, then they independently chose to come right away and bring the entire supermarket there. We've even been shown that they cannot act on orders of killing animals, like we saw in the last episode. The Abate asks if they could kill some animals upon request, and they answered that causing harm is not in their nature, leading to him suggesting that he could kill the animals and they could cook whatever he killed. That dialogue is also quite fascinating because my brain starts going to, is this foreshadowing that they're gonna use the Abate for killing or something? Now it's so funny because in the supermarket they also choose to frame in the background every meal is a choice. Is it though? I mean, she could barely eat without the help of these other guys, so is it really her choice? It's also so funny that she has access to all the ingredients and products in the world, but she chooses to just get microwavable meals. Then when she's back at home, power goes out. And she noticed that power goes out all over the city. She is then told over the phone that they have rerouted the power in the city to only her neighborhood or to the key moments where they have night walkers, as a means of just preserving the electricity that they have. Okay. This is starting to worry me a little bit. Like, this is a nice gesture. It's a very harmless thing to do, but they are gaining more and more power over Carol. My trust with these guys is seriously getting tested because I feel like if we got to a situation where they had to act against Carol, she wouldn't really have much to be able to do about it. Then she makes the hand grenade joke over the phone, which leads to Sosha actually delivering her a hand grenade. Carol invites her in for a drink and they share a drink and have a chat. Now when I was watching this show, something interesting happened here, and this actually happened a lot of times during my watch. I saw them share the drink and then my brain started thinking, wait, would it affect everyone on Earth if one of them got intoxicated? Then a few seconds later, I hear Carol asking that exact question. Let me actually explain this properly because I can pull a parallel to how any story is told. When I have a question about something in the show, and the show answers that exact question, I feel rewarded for paying attention. I feel like the writers want me to consider the ins and outs of every situation that happens. That, to me, is the sign of a great storyteller. And then you can consider what it's like when you're watching a storyteller who are very bad at their job, and they don't want you to ask questions about what you're watching. Oh, Darth Vader could just pull down the ship with the Force? But how come he didn't do that in Rogue One? Or when they flew away from Hoth in Empire? Don't think about it. Wait. So there was another ship behind that ship? That wasn't there earlier. Where did that come from? Don't think about it. And wait. Their plan was to let one ship take off so Vader would pull that down and then they would take away from the second ship? Who was it that flew that first ship? And why wouldn't Vader just pull down the second ship again? Fuck off. In case you didn't already know, Kenobi is a fucking train wreck of a show. Yeah, sorry about that. Rant over. Now back to PLUR1BUS. It's quite interesting to see how much these creatures are trying to simulate an actual conversation. She tells like fun facts about spirits and their names and how those names came about, but Carol doesn't buy it. She cuts straight to the chase. Even when Sosha is kind of dancing around the issue, she is not one to accept their bullshit. This also further enriched my trust issues with these people for the very same reasons that Carol's bringing up. These people have all of the scientific knowledge in the world, and they can't give a more specific answer other than weeks or months or maybe more. Really? I feel like you're hiding something from us. Carol also calls out their weird morality over here. Sosha says that they have a biological imperative to also turn Carol, but they said that Carol's life is her own, that she has agency over her life, until she doesn't then, I guess. Now Sosha's response here is super interesting.
If you were walking by a lake and you saw somebody drowning, would you throw him a life preserver? Of course you would. You wouldn't think, you wouldn't wait, you wouldn't try to get consensus on it, you'd just throw it.
I'm not gonna lie, this is a really good response. By all accounts, the world that all of these people create is essentially paradise on paper. So from their perspective, they see it as saving and bettering the world for them to turn. These are all so interesting questions to bring up. Again, further emphasizing what I said in my previous video, that this show is exploring so many different sides of this setting and theme. Carol then goes on a rant and describes all of these beautiful places that she's imagining that they're experiencing, which leads to her unknowingly bringing up memories that she had together with Helen. Then Sosha starts describing the same memories, which upset Carol that they haven't followed her orders, and she demands them to forget about Helen and not talk about her. She then grabs the grenade thinking it's a fake, and after pulling the pin, it turns out to be a real grenade, and in the last second she is saved by Sosha. We see that Sosha is heavily injured by this and she is rushed into the hospital. Whilst there, Carol waits in the lobby. She then has some news about the operation that are Delivered to Carol by a DHL delivery man. Yeah, that's just such a fucking funny touch. But this conversation leads into that Carol learns that they will give her essentially anything she asks for. A grenade, a bazooka, a tank, a freaking nuke. The people hesitate, they wouldn't feel good about it, and they would try to talk her out of it. But ultimately, she can get anything she wants. And this is where the situation is starting to worry me a little bit. They can clearly choose to not follow her exact orders, but they tell her that they will do anything. So I just start thinking, where do they draw the line in between obeying her orders or thinking that something else will make her happier? Like, when is it that they choose to step outside of what it is that she's asking of them? Yeah, I just have red flags popping up all over. But the final line delivery from this guy is also so fucking funny.
Would you like an atom bomb?
Then we close off the episode with Carol getting an idea. What that idea is, we still don't know fully, but I'm guessing she's going to be using the fact that they follow her orders to try and concoct some plan around that. Yeah, so that was all episode 3. What I got out of it is that I'm a bit worried that they're making Carol a bit too much of a Karen, because I know that that can effectively alienate a large part of their audience. And I know that film Twitter is going to be an awful place if we get that. I'm worried about the morality of the infected, and I'm also worried about how much power over Carol the infected are gaining. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the coming episodes. So far I'm enjoying the show quite a bit, and it's also fun interacting with you guys over here. So let me know what you thought of the episode down in the comments, and of course, like the video and subscribe to keep up with my updates for the coming episodes as well. So yeah, see us.